Well, here we are. Tom's bench is on my bench, and I've got a few coats of polyurethane again on it, on the panels where I got the raised panels in. And I'm ready to start working on the interior, the drawers and the doors. And but I'm in a predicament. I need a little more room on my bench to fabricate the doors, what have you, and the panels and whatnot. And I don't want to put this thing on the ground and work on the ground on it. So this little video here is something else I'm going to put on YouTube separate, but it's going to be part of the overall video for the bench. If you come up with a solution, it's not for everybody, but the whole idea is that I'm in a small space. And yet it's a pretty large object, and there's usually always some way you can work things, if you think about it a little bit. And the biggest advantage I have is because my bench is large. I'm used to working on big items, and I do large fabrications, not all the time, but sometimes. And I like the availability of a large bench that does not move. I don't care what I do, I'll lean on a hammer on it, push on it, it does not move. It's solid. It kills me when I see some guys working on benches and everything's rattling and moving, So, I'll just get into it. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to let the cameras roll, try to get as much good filming on it as I possibly can. And you'll see as I go along what I'm going to do. I thought of a way of giving myself some more room, and yet not having to take this off my bench. And so it's early. I already went to Home Depot and got some material. And one thing I'm going to say right off the bat is how I measure everything. I'm going to use a story pole. I don't think I'm going to be pulling out my tape one time. If I do, it'd be very rare. So it's just to show you how you can do better with a story pole and make less mistakes. And if you're measuring and all that fiddle around with it, with the tape or whatever, it's a simple little build, but yet it's considerable lumber involved because of the weight of this thing. I'm concerned about the weight and all the things falling off. So, but the story pole is another good example for this video, and no plans to speak of. Just I got an idea in my head what I want to do, and you'll just see how it goes. And some of the things I'm going to introduce in this build, might be silly as some people, because believe me, I could build this thing with 2x4s and my nail gun in like no time at all. Really, I don't. It's kind of overbuilding what I'm building, but it's kind of like what I like to do, and yet the lumber can be reused later for something else. So I've gotten plans. So it's not like I'm just really in some way people think I'm throwing money away, but then again, I like the methods, and it's going to work. So with that, I'll be quiet, and I'm going to put this on a Lazy Susan, turn it around to face me, and where the interior now is facing my bench here, where I'm going to be working and installing, and then I'll move it on this apparatus. So with that, I'm going to get to it, and that's it. So hope you enjoy it. Hope you get something out of it, and get to work. Okay, here we go. Now I am in the process of taking the blocks from underneath the bench that's already sitting on the Lazy Susan. When I mentioned earlier about the method, I was originally thinking about building this extension on the bench with the 4x4 by doing some mortise and pinning and, lap joints and all that jazz. That's what I was kind of referring to, but you'll see, no, I came to my senses and just used my pin nailer. So instead of, going to my, hollow chisel mortise and all that jazz. Basic principle is just to extend my bench so I can have some extra room to do the other operations needed to do the drawers and whatnot. Because I'm going to box joint the drawers, and I was going to do raised panels as I did on the outside, but the problem was panels I got, they kept cupping, and it's really hot now. It's really, really hot. I got the best ones, and yet by the next day, they were cupped. And, by the time I ran them, skip planing them, they came down like a ½ inch, and they're straight now, but they're only good for something else other than what I'm going to use them for in the drawer here. So I went to a different design for the drawers, but it'll still be fine. No problem. Other than that, I can't emphasize strong enough the use of a story pole. Here I'm pulling out the boards I had underneath the bench, supporting the laser. There's a little piece of particle board and plastic, and that is the Lazy Susan. And I'm showing it to you and telling you how simple it is. It's nothing to it, and yet look what it did. I mean, particle board, a little bit of plastic and ball bearings underneath it, and it handled that bench with no problem. So you think a little bit, you can figure just about anything out. So here with the story pole, I'm going to be marking the heights of the 4x legs. And what you do is you take it, you mark it, make a line, and that's it. And then what you usually do is identify your lines, and a lot of times you'll have one side of the pole designated for, like, say, the verticals or the horizontal measurements if you're working on a case, for example. In this case, it's just I'm marking the legs, and I'm just marking 1, 2, 3, and 4, that type of deal. It'll be 4 legs. I'm identifying them that way. And then, however you want to identify it. The thing is, after that, you take it to your saw, and you lay it on your saw. You clean up one end, and then you make it, you lay it on your saw, and you cut it, and that is it. I mean, that thing is dead nuts. I'm not saying you never use tapes. In fact, I'm going to probably make a video on tapes, because there are so many different types of tape. I have a lot of different tapes that I use for different operations. I'll use a roll-up tape for framing, all the other different for what I'm doing. Something very fine. And I have a tape that gives me both regular measurements as well as metric, because I work at both quantities. So I'm going to have one someday. People won't want to store one. Why these tapes are so different, and I'll explain why. Other than that, here I am at the saw, and again, you put one end at the end, a cleaned up end, and then you, on your line, you mark it. There's no measuring. I mean, if you do any amount of work, you'll eventually transpose a number or measure wrong. Here you can't. I don't know if you notice, but what I do is when I mark stuff too, if it's really fine, not framing, but this kind of stuff, instead of making a line, I make a point, I make a dot. And then I keep my pencil on that dot and bring my square to it. And you'll find that you'll really do something like that a lot with really finished work, especially if you're, for example, laying out dovetails. You'll be using not a pencil, but you'll be using a razor, a knife, and you'll bring that square or whatever you're marking with over to the knife. You won't bring that and try to find a line. So it's just a better way of being more accurate. It's just a lot that I do is out of habit. You'll see later on when I'm putting a certain remember in this thing, I really don't need it, but I'm laying it out and dividing it for its, it's equal spacing, and it's really not necessary. As you can see, I got the 4 legs in. I got the 1-bys. I changed my design quite a bit from what I was going to do originally, but I am I'm putting a 4-by in here. I'm going to actually put a 4-by in there, and I believe the 4-by 2-by. I can't remember. But, I'm not just framing the little joists and supports on these 1-bys. These 1-bys are mainly just to keep the legs in position. And actually, it did quite a good job. I was figuring on having to put me some cross bracing on. I didn't have to do any of that at all. Now, here I am. I'm going to measure across with my stick. I got another side, and that's going to be the see, there's a 4-by already there. If you can see it going across on the 1-by on both sides. I got a 4-by front and back. You see that? And now I'm going to mark the joists that go in between, and I'm checking to see if they're the same, and they are the same. And making a little line, so that when I transfer that to the board, I'll be cutting exactly on the line. Again, I'll be probably identifying them, forced to have it, but I'll know by the size what they are. It's a very simple little structure here. It's just, but I thought it would be good because it has the principles of using a story pole so clear, and it's very simple and easy to understand. So again, any good carpenter can do this almost by eye. You take the board and lay it there and mark the board instead of measuring. So many different ways of doing it. Now here I measured the width, I divided with my own calculator, and I'm going back and forth. Actually, I used my metric out of habit. And again, a good framer, you can just by eye space these things. When I'm doing it, I'm just used to doing it that way. I work by the numbers. I used to say when I used to do a lot of installation work. Now I'm marking the length of the joist, some baby joists that are going to go in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the joist, and I'll show you later that I'll pre-drill them. 2 holes on one side and 1 hole on the other. And I do not have a Craig kit. I really personally don't really kind of care for it. I think it's a very good invention, and a lot of people use it. It has a very good use, but the type of work that I do, I have really no use for that system. Here I'm showing you the actual the boards. I just don't personally care for. I don't know. I'm not trying to talk bad about it, but it's a good idea. It's quick. It works. And a lot of people like it. I think if I was in business, that might be different, because now time is money. But since I'm not pressed by time without being retired, the way I feel, I do things the way I want to do, more traditionally. Dovetailing, mortise and tenon, that type of thing. Now, the panels on. Yeah, as you can see, I didn't cut this panel length. I'm telling you right now, that panel's so nice, I'm going to keep it for something else. I'm going to make some boxes for some tools and what have you. And it's nice for, shop stuff. And it's certainly like it for furniture, but I mean for shop stuff. So I'm just putting 1-inch pins, just a 1/2 inch plywood, just to keep it from moving. Now, what I could have done before I did this is I should have measured those little joists on my story pole. Because if I had to, for example, nail this thing down solid, I have no way of locating those joists now. But with a story pole, I could lay it across here and know exactly where the joists are. And since I didn't want to cut the panels, now they're overhanging my bench. So you're going to see me pull my ruler out, and you're going to see me watch where the end of my ruler goes. That goes right to the end of my bench. So you see how much I have overhanging there. And but again, if I would have marked out with a story pole, I would have. I just lay the story pole right down and know exactly where the end of that 1 by is and the 4 by and everything. So I just kind of make a little conscious error there, but this is not a critical unit. So I'm just saying how historical will lay out anything. You're doing decking, you're putting an add-on in your house, something like that. Even in that framing, get a long 1 by or something and mark your joist. That way you lay it across it, you put your nails exactly going down. Any nail, skip it. So it's all in place. My little extension is it's solid. Didn't have to put any angle braces on it at all, and it's holding my front bench without a problem. And I just hope that somebody out there will start really give a story pole a thought. You might want a little cabinet or something like that. Put it down a piece of stick, and you've got the length, you've got the height, and you can lay that whole thing out. How the walls are going to be, the spacing you want, height, shelves, top, whole thing, legs, whatever. It's a good way to do this kind of work, and definitely I'm not saying use it to build a house. No, cabinets, things of this nature, small items. This happens kind of an elaborate bench for a friend of mine. He drove bowling balls for his wife. His wife's a professional bowler.
And that gives me a lot of room to work now. Gives me a lot of room to work, all that. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good for my bench here. A few hours work. Younger man probably do it in a lot less time, but I got all this now to do. You can make my drawers, my raised panels, and I've got my casework right here to install everything. I've got the door glides and things like that. And man, I don't want to do this underground. So yeah, I've cost me a few bucks for the material. The two panels, like I said, I got a good side down. I'm going to use those for something else. I just got some little 1-inch pins in there. All it is keep it from moving. I'm not trying to hold it down, and it'll be easier to take it out too. But yeah, and I got some other ideas for the 4x4s and the 2x that I'm using it for. So even that's not junk. So no, I'm really pleased with this. That was a predicament, but you think about it, you work something out every time. And again, the main thing is I'm in a small shop, and any of you guys that got a small shop can relate. And again, I keep pumping this bench, but it depends what you do, what kind of work you do. But man, what a benefit to have a big bench like this. You see, I'm lugging on this thing and moving, never move, never budge. And I got this big thing on top of it, never budge. One of the best things I ever did. I wish I'd have started this long ago, but I was so busy with playing golf and bowling, telling my wife I wish I'd have not done any of that, and just kept on doing, my finish work. But anyways, I'm here now doing it, so I hope you get something out of this. Again, my camera work isn't the best. I tried to do what I could, but I did everything with this story pole. Everything with this story pole. And you saw everything fit. I mean, it's perfect. The only thing I use my metric tape is to lay out the two cross studs, just to get a rough dimension of the overall, and then divide it by 3, and just approximate. It wasn't really, dead nuts actually centered, but good enough. I'm pretty even. But a story pole, I cut everything. It's level because again, it is dead nuts level because I checked it before how I measured the back legs and the front legs. And I'm flush with with my bench, good enough to where I had no trouble moving this thing over. So, and again, look, I moved this thing over, it never budged. This thing never budged. And I don't even have any cross bracing on it. So I was gonna put some, but another one by was for, but I kind of think, I don't think I really need it, So, and it's not gonna be moving, It's just, that's all the moving's gonna have right now, where it's at right now. After that, it's coming off. So, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something out of it, and have a good day. And I hope you get to work in the shop. And if you do, as always, work safe. Have a good time and don't use any putty. Okay? All right, have a good time, have a good day, and see you next time.